This moment, I'm sitting there going, no, keep one lot, sell the rest. No, sell the whole thing and get out of here.
No gentle credits rolled, no background strings to soften the tension, only the buzzing sting of fluorescent lights and the echo of footsteps across weathered wooden floors. Christine entered the courtroom carrying what had become her signature weapon. A familiar blue binder, but not the thin one fans had once seen. This one was swollen, armored with colored tabs, marked with legal stamps, and heavy not with bitterness, but with proof. Evidence. At the defense table, Kody sat unnervingly still, his hands clasped so tightly the knuckles blanched, lips pressed into a razor's line. His attorney, more crisis handler than litigator, flanked him with quiet discomfort. Just behind him, Robin kept her distance, sitting a row back as if she herself didn't want to share the front line of this collapse. The courtroom hadn't changed in size, yet power had shifted so visibly that the air itself seemed to shrink. The judge peered down over his glasses, calm voice slicing through the hum. We are present today to hear closing arguments regarding custodial split and property disputes between Mr. Brown and Mrs. Brown. Christine rose without hesitation. Yes, Your Honor, she declared firmly, clutching the binder like a blade unsheathed at last. She handed it to the clerk. Contained here is everything we've reviewed, and more. Evidence of financial concealment, coercive control, and a custody draft from 2014 that Mr. Brown demanded I sign, then pretended never existed. The atmosphere cracked. This was no longer a routine closing, it was a detonation. Kody shifted, sweat breaking across his forehead. She's fabricating, he muttered through clenched teeth. Christine's gaze tilted ever so slightly, unblinking, unshaken. You ordered me to sign it in front of our counselor, she replied. I was terrified, and you knew it. But I made a copy, and I scanned it. I sent it to my sister for safekeeping. Robin gasped, quiet but piercing enough for everyone to hear. The judge leaned back, clearing his throat. We'll recess briefly while I review the binder. Christine's hands folded neatly in her lap, a woman who had been waiting for this moment for nearly a decade. Kody bent toward his lawyer, whispering furiously, but his attorney's eyes were locked on the binder, as though it might detonate at any second. And in truth, it already had. The recess was anything but restful. The shuffle of papers carried more weight than thunder. Christine remained composed, her face unreadable as the judge scanned page after page. Across the aisle, Kody's jaw clenched so tightly his neck trembled. His lawyer leaned in, voice low and sharp. You never gave me this custody draft? Kody's stare fixed forward, avoiding Christine entirely. But Christine no longer needed his acknowledgement. She had already survived years of silence. The judge adjusted his glasses. Mrs. Brown, this 2014 draft, was it signed in private at Mr. Brown's request? Christine rose once more, voice steady. Yes, Your Honor. In the counselor's office. No witnesses beyond her. I signed and I copied. He told me it would simplify parenting if things ever turned sour. He abandoned the paper, and for 9 years he denied it even existed. Kody flushed red, his composure fraying. Robin's eyes darted downward, her presence shrinking. The room itself stilled, even the clerk froze mid-keystroke. The judge pressed. This document grants you sole legal custody upon separation. Joint custody only valid if Mr. Brown filed guardianship and proof of residence. He never did. Christine nodded firmly. Correct, Your Honor. And the document is signed, dated, time-stamped. I also possess the therapist's email confirming she witnessed the signing. She lifted her phone as proof. Kody lurched upright, desperation spilling into his voice. It wasn't binding. It was emotional talk, not a contract. The judge's gaze sharpened. Your signature is here, Mr. Brown, unless you claim forgery. No. Kody cut in hastily. I'm not saying forgery. Then it stands, the judge declared coldly. Christine did not gloat, did not smirk. She didn't need to. The paper spoke louder than any tantrum. Robin whispered, almost pleading, Why didn't you tell me about that deal? Kody slumped back, eyes hollow, while the judge's voice carried on. This binder also includes property records. Mrs. Brown, can you explain why public deeds differ from private transfers? Christine stood tall. Yes, Your Honor. In 2021, Kody transferred property into an LLC under Robin's maiden name. He told the family it was for tax purposes, but in reality, it erased every other spouse, including me. And it was completed after I left him. The judge's eyes widened in disbelief. Post-separation concealment? Christine's reply was crisp. Yes. The judge tapped his pen, each strike echoing like a gavel. "Mr. Brown, this court will investigate concealment of assets." His voice dropped lower, almost solemn. "If proven, Mr. Brown, you may have lost all legal control." In that moment, Kody ceased to resemble a husband or even a father. He looked like a ruler discovering his empire was built on sand. Christine sat back, her eyes unwavering as the judge flipped to a tab marked 2021. Within lay escrow papers, notarized transfers, and scanned emails, all tracing a single truth. A family property stripped into a secret LLC, solely in Robin's name. "It was temporary," Kody blurted. "We said until taxes cleared." Christine walked away. "What was I supposed to do?" Christine countered sharply. "You never informed me, nor Janelle, nor Mary. You did it after locking us out of the family bank account." The room bristled. The judge looked directly at her. "You're claiming your financial access was revoked without notice?" Christine held steady. "Yes, January 2022, the same week the deed switched." Kody tried to interject. "It was chaos. We were splitting." "You were accumulating," Christine cut back, pulling a flash drive from her bag. The moment was cinematic. "Your Honor, this is a recorded call with our financial advisor confirming only Kody and Robin had access after January 3rd. The judge gestured to the technician. Playback began. Christine's voice filled the room, desperate yet controlled. "I'm only trying to understand why I cannot log into our joint account." The advisor's response landed like a hammer. "Your access was revoked as of this month. Authorization now rests with Mr. Brown and Mrs. Brown, Robin." Kody stared into his lap. The judge halted playback. "Mr. Brown, did you authorize this?" Silence. Again. "Did you cut her off while she remained a legal trustee?" Finally, Kody whispered, "Yes, but I had reason." "She was still your wife," the judge snapped. "This court will now examine fiduciary misconduct." Christine inhaled deeply, each breath carrying years of suffocation. And as the flash drive sealed into evidence, the atmosphere froze. No yelling, no spectacle, only a chilling silence that spoke louder than rage. "It's not a reason to lose everything." The judge's voice echoed, but Christine was already moving, and what she did next silenced even the whispers in the gallery. She stepped forward to the center of the courtroom and drew a folded slip of paper from her pocket. "This," she announced firmly, "is something my daughter wrote the night she overheard a conversation between her father and Robin." She handed it to the clerk. The judge unfolded the note, his brow knitting as he read aloud. "If she leaves, we cut her out. No more help. No more coverage. No more sharing. She made her choice, so let her pay." The words floated in the room like poison. The judge looked up. "Whose voice is this?" Christine stood silent because she didn't need to answer. Everyone in the room already knew. Kody's face nodded, every muscle tightening as though a rope had coiled around his throat. The image of a devoted father shattered in real time, replaced by a man desperately clinging to a picture of himself that no longer existed. The judge set the paper aside, gesturing for the next exhibit. Christine wasted no time. She pulled a document from her binder, encased in a plastic sleeve. "This is the email that changed everything for me," she said. Dated April 14th, 2021, and addressed to Kody, it had landed in her inbox by mistake, copied to her because she was still listed on an LLC. Her voice shook as she passed it forward. "It made me sick." The judge slipped on his glasses and read aloud in a calm, unhurried tone. "As agreed upon at our last meeting, the Coyote Pass reorganization must be completed before Christine files. Robin remains the best beneficiary given her credit score and legal access." The draft omits Christine and Janelle as instructed. The courtroom froze. Kody leaned forward, stammering. "It was just a draft, planning only, nothing final." The judge raised a hand. "Does it list your name as the party directing the omissions?" Kody's voice cracked. "Yes, but it was strategy, not execution." Christine's reply cut sharper than any attorney's cross-examination. "Strategy? You told me it was for the children. You lied. You were funneling everything to Robin in secret." Robin sat motionless, staring at the table, her silence more damning than protest. The judge flipped the page. "There's a second note. Make sure Christine's post-separation paperwork is digitally cleaned before transfer." "Would you like to explain that, Mr. Brown?" Kody's jaw opened, but words failed. He managed only, "I didn't write it." The planner did. Christine's eyes narrowed. "And you let it happen." For the first time, the courtroom didn't see Kody as careless. They saw him as calculated. The judge scribbled on his notepad. This aligns with revoked account access, concealed deeds, and your absence from custody obligations. This is no longer a matter of divorce. It's systemic erasure. Kody's attorney rose. Objection, Your Honor, that's framing. Sit down, the judge barked. The command cracked like a whip. Christine remained tall, voice unwavering as she produced another relic from her binder. And here, she declared, handing over a yellowed letter, is Kody's 2015 promise. He swore the Flagstaff house would be in my name within 3 years. It never happened. The judge read quietly, then nodded, his voice weighty. This court now has grounds to grant full custodial responsibility to Mrs. Brown and proceed with asset reassignment. It wasn't just credibility Kody lost in that moment, it was control. The courtroom no longer smelled of ink and cedar. It reeked of unraveling authority, the quiet disintegration of a man's empire beneath fluorescent light. Kody hunched, not in defiance, but in defeat. Christine wasn't smiling, wasn't smug. She looked like a woman who had buried the grief years ago, who had survived the ashes, and was now only making sure the truth was recorded in ink. The judge turned another tab in the binder. This one marked custodial clauses supplemental. Letters from school principals confirmed Christine had been the only emergency contact for 4 years. Medical consent forms bore only her signature. Therapy intakes showed Kody had never once attended a session. Mr. Brown, the judge asked firmly, why is your name missing from every parenting document since 2019? Kody cleared his throat, fumbling. I was caring for the older children. Travel was complicated. The pandemic made... Christine's reply was surgical. I invited you? You never came. She lifted a screenshot of text messages. A child's plea. Dad, will you come to parent night? No reply. Another message. I wish you'd just show up even if it's uncomfortable. Silence. Christine's voice cracked. That's from Truly. She cried when he didn't answer. The judge exhaled heavily. This court cannot grant custody to a parent so absent. Kody's lips moved, but no words formed. There was no spin left, no TLC cameras to play to, no family brand to shield him. Then came the moment that ended even the illusion of power. Christine pulled a yellow envelope from her binder, handing it forward. This arrived anonymously 2 weeks ago. I had it authenticated. Inside was a single page, private property transfer, F.A. Robin Brown, LLC, signed by Kody Brown, dated February 4th, 2023, long after separation. Long after depositions, the judge's voice sharpened. Mr. Brown, were you still transferring marital property during the court-ordered freeze? Kody blinked, panic flickering. I didn't think it applied to LLC transfers. The judge's tone was steel. It did. And you violated a standing order. And with one sentence, the empire crumbled. Effective immediately, the judge declared. Mr. Brown is stripped of all decision-making authority over shared property. Custody is granted in full to Mrs. Brown. All assets are placed under investigation. Robin gasped into her hand. Christine snapped her binder shut. Kody looked like a man who finally realized power was never his birthright. It had only been borrowed. And the loan had expired. The silence that followed was heavier than shouting could ever be. Robin sagged back as though the ruling itself had struck her. Christine let out a breath, one held for over a decade, a breath tangled in years of gaslighting and dismissal. The judge tapped the folder. A written order will be filed within 24 hours. Until then, my ruling stands. Mrs. Brown retains sole guardianship. All property remains frozen pending forensic review. His eyes fixed on Kody. You control nothing now. Not custody. Not assets. In that single declaration, the man who once built an empire on screen was dismantled. His lawyer leaned in, whispering about appeals, but Kody didn't hear. He was too busy grasping at the ruins of himself. The room no longer orbited around him. The spotlight was gone. The patriarch was gone. The judge turned to Christine. Anything further? She rose slowly, retrieving one last photo. A simple snapshot of her daughter, barefoot on a porch, laughing with a slice of watermelon. Only this, Christine said softly. This is what I'm protecting. Not assets. Not revenge. Their future. The judge nodded. Noted. And just like that, Kody Brown ceased to be the center of the Sister Wives universe. Not erased, but held to account. And as the courtroom exhaled, Robin whispered the only words she could manage. So, what now? She could manage. So, what now? Christine looked at Robin with a gaze that wasn't cruel but steady. "Now," she said quietly, "now you finally know what it feels like to be left out of the plan." Because the truth had never just been in the binder. It was in the empty space where Kody's promises were supposed to live. And at last, the court had recognized that void. The judge rose, declaring a recess until post-verdict compliance review. As he stepped down, Christine gathered her binder, not clutching it like a trophy, but carrying it like a shield she no longer needed. For the first time in his very public life, Kody sat frozen, not because he chose stillness, but because the weight of defeat pinned him to his chair. The courtroom emptied slowly, like mourners leaving a wake. Even the reporters, normally ravenous for headlines, scribbled quietly, subdued by the gravity of what they'd witnessed. The tone had shifted, not only against Kody, but against the entire myth he had spun for years. One husband, 4 wives, a divine plan. That illusion was stripped bare in front of everyone. Christine walked into the hallway, her attorney beside her. A hush followed her like a veil. No reporters called out, no cameras flashed. Even courthouse staff averted their eyes as though the walls themselves understood the magnitude of what had just occurred. Back inside, Robin lingered, her shoulders sagging, her eyes distant. "Kody," she whispered faintly, "you told me we were protected." Kody's lips moved, but no sound came. The man who once defined discipline as spiritual leadership now looked like a broken monument to his own collapse. Robin's voice cracked as she turned to the clerk. "There's nothing we can do, is there?" The clerk remained silent. The judgment had already taken more than custody, more than property. It had stripped Kody of the privilege he'd once mistaken for authority. Robin began to cry. It wasn't performative. It was hollow. The tears of someone realizing the fantasy of being the chosen one had dissolved. There was no throne left to claim. Outside, Christine didn't shed tears. She moved with calm resolve toward her car. Her attorney handed her the official copy of the ruling. "Congratulations," he murmured. Christine looked down at the paper, then up at the sky. "This isn't a win," she replied softly. "It's a restoration." Back inside, the camera of public attention lingered on Kody, still slouched in his chair, staring at the void where power used to orbit him. An aide approached with an envelope, an order requiring him to attend deposition for possible civil sanctions tied to the asset freeze violation. He didn't even open it. Because when Christine walked away, she hadn't just left him. She had left behind the illusion of who he thought he was, the man who believed this day would never come. The patriarch who once claimed he ruled 4 wives with heavenly authority could no longer rule his own legacy. Christine placed the binder in the passenger seat of her car as if even the binder deserved peace now. This was never about a house, or deeds, or bank accounts. It was about reclaiming value, voice, and visibility that had been traded away for years in the name of spiritual order. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like one of 4. She felt whole. By dawn, the ruling had spread like wildfire. Headlines flashed, Kody Brown awarded full custody and property rights. Court freezes Kody Brown's assets. Yet behind the media frenzy, the sharpest blow hadn't even landed. That came when Christine's lawyers filed a petition to strip Kody's claim to Coyote Pass entirely. The land he once called our legacy was now under question. To him, Coyote Pass had always been more than soil. It was his throne, his stage, his patriarchal fantasy. But when Christine left, the dream fractured. And now, with paperwork in hand, the court revealed it had never been filed as a shared estate at all. In chambers, the judge flipped through the deeds. "So," he said carefully, "Mr. Brown conveyed ownership into an LLC after Christine's departure and failed to disclose it in marital filings?" Christine's attorney nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." The judge's face wasn't angry, it was disappointed. Later that day, the ruling was amended. Coyote Pass would be split, 50% awarded to Christine, and the other half placed under court-controlled escrow. Kody could no longer build, sell, or develop without Christine's written consent. When Robin learned of it, she reportedly left the courthouse parking lot in tears. She had uprooted her family to Arizona on promises of permanence, only to discover the permanence was a mirage. Kody issued a brief, hollow statement to the press. "I'm disappointed. I wanted unity, but the world had already seen through it. It had never been about unity. It had always been about unchecked control. And now that control was dismantled in the brightest, coldest light of the law." Christine didn't hold press conferences. She didn't need to. Her silence spoke louder than rebuttals ever could. The only public statement she offered was a handwritten note submitted to the court. May Coyote Pass finally become a place of peace for my children. That is all I ever wanted. The same land Kody once bragged would unite the family now stood as evidence of how far it had broken apart. Christine's 50% came not in theory, not in spiritual rhetoric, but in binding legal fact. For the first time, she had rights in her own name. Rights to sell, to build, to own something without bargaining. She wasn't just a wife who left, she was a woman who stood. And the court had agreed she should never have had to fight so long to prove it. Days later, Christine's legal team filed one final document, a forensic addendum from a private auditor, a spreadsheet titled Unaccounted Funds, Brown Family Trust. It wasn't sensational, but it was devastating. At the top, a transfer of $147,000, dated just 6 months before trial, siphoned into an account labeled RB Holdings LLC. Robin's initials. Robin's digital signature. Robin's name. The ledger wasn't a storyline, it was evidence. Money meant for school fees, mortgages, and household costs had been quietly redirected into Robin's private entity. An account none of the other wives had ever been told about. A name never uttered on camera, never once mentioned in family meetings. And now it was stamped on court records. The judge's face barely moved, but his words shifted the earth. We now have cause to investigate the misuse of marital trust funds. A special master will be appointed to review all transactions linked to RB Holdings and any LLCs formed after 2020. Kody tried to interject. It was temporary. We needed... Christine's voice cut cleanly. You didn't need... You wanted to hide it. You never thought I'd find the receipts. Robin tried to defend herself, trembling. It was to provide security for my children. You don't understand. The judge interrupted swiftly. What you attempted was not protection. It was segregation. Financial segregation. The air grew heavy. Kody reached for Robin's hand, but this time she pulled away. For the first time, even she knew tears wouldn't save them. Christine produced one last envelope. Emails from the family accountant, she said, asking for verification of RB Holdings. I never saw them. Janelle never saw them. Only Kody and Robin replied. She handed them in. No speeches, no theatrics. Just receipts. Robin's name was now inked into a paper trail that could lead to civil charges. The court stamped it into evidence and ordered a forensic audit of the family's finances dating back to 2017. Christine didn't smile. She only whispered to her lawyer, "That was the last receipt I needed." Kody sat stone still as the truth settled. She hadn't just left him. She had outsmarted him piece by piece, page by page, until his empire dissolved in silence. The judge announced the review could result in financial penalties. Possibly misconduct charges. Christine didn't push further. The court has given me peace, she said quietly. That's enough. This wasn't revenge. This was reclamation. For years, she was told she was too much, but now she had proven she was always enough. As Christine walked across the yard of her home that evening, the sunlight painted the trees in a way it never had before. Not because the sky changed, but because she could finally see it without chains. No more waiting. No more permission. Just her, her children, and the life rebuilt from ashes. She never needed a court to validate her truth. But now that it had, the truth was undeniable, public, legal, and irreversible. And for the first time in his life, Kody Brown had no voice in the matter.